I just want to say this is sort of like how the sausage is made, and by watching this may ruin the magic of the music to you. So bear that in mind. Patience of eternity. All right, well, eternity is pretty patient. We start the track off with the rumble that you heard in the beginning of the first track, or sorry, at the end of the first track in the first part. So it makes a second appearance. And yeah, it's rumbly. Just gonna skip that part because it just rumbles. We get into a church organ playing in octaves, I assume. Almost. So really bring in the bottom end. And a very long. So there's a very long attack and decay and release on the church organ. So, you know, yeah, I am using a reverb, but I guess the question is, do I really need to be using it? Because yeah, so boosting the bottom end just to really get that. And again for the top end, just to get the sparkle once you get up there. And you'll notice I'm cutting out this C sharp in here. So it's really, like, I don't want it to be super obvious, so it probably isn't even... The attack probably hasn't even hit its max until it's told to stop. So, but anyway, yeah. So here I'm actually using Ultra Reverb, and this was another reverb that I got around this time, and it took a while for me to figure this one out. I mean, on the surface it looks fine, but oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think I talked about this reverb in Inner Space, so I won't talk about it too much. But all that to say, I figured out, got to do what I wanted to do. I remember having rendering issues with this one actually too, early on. Don't really know what the issue was exactly, but it was very temperamental and would sometimes, I can't remember what the problem was, but it would just render wrong when I was exporting my files for the mix master. So that was my other... I sort of had a bad taste in my mouth with this, but I also liked what it could do. So I persevered and got it working properly the way I wanted. Basically, it was some settings that I just had to screw around with to get it to export properly. So yeah. I do like big church organ sounds, and I felt that it was an excellent way to, well, first of all, introduce part 2. But when I think of the patience of eternity and just this long swelling organ, yeah, I mean, I did that in the end of Elements Air. That was the very last track. It's however long it is, a few minutes long, and it's pretty much just a church organ just getting louder and louder and louder, and then stopping. And anyway, I always liked that, so I did it again. Moving on to... Oh, we have some strings here, I think. Yep. So if I just play this, just a triad. the mod wheel to give it some flourish. Dip at the 1K point. See what it actually sounds like. So, yeah. Just getting rid of that sound. And again, adding some top end there. And then reverb, because reverb. With ridiculously long tails. Oh, 86 seconds? Sure. Sure, what the heck. Because, you know. Moving on. So I've got a few more of these loops here. And let's see what it just sounds like here. Sorry. So these are almost all guitar loops too that they've made. I don't know if there's any information. Yeah. So yeah, sound source came from Bizarre Guitar Sessions. Again, this is pretty old, but excellent loops that they created. So it was great that they actually put them into Atmosphere and Omnisphere. And this is the actual sound source without any effects. I mean, it just sounds so good. So again, just taking care of this lower mid-range and then running through the reverb. Another reason why I do this, by the way, a lot is when I do run it through reverb, if you were to take that out, it would just be too much, just be overpowering. So by taming it before putting it into the reverb, yeah, it just makes it sound the way you want it to sound without it being completely out of control. Nothing stopping you from EQing it on the other side, but by taming it before it goes into the reverb, you have less chance of runaway frequencies just causing havoc and just doing what you don't want. So for whatever reason, I've split this into two different things, and I assume this is just probably one octave up. Yeah. So again, these aren't multi-sampled. It's just single loops, but they sound great. Moving on, we've got 12-string guitar. NR stands for noise reduction, I believe. Okay, so I'm using Guitar Rig here. So this is when I started experimenting with virtual guitar pedals. So we'll start at the top. We've got a delay. Pretty subtle. Run it through Guitar Rig. Give it some crunch. Pan it to all hell, apparently. Oh, the speed is really slow. So again, yeah, it's panning pretty hard, but once you run it through reverb with the dry, it's mostly wet. So you get the impression that it's moving left and right very slowly, but it's very subtle once you've done that. And then, yeah. Again, you're mostly chopping off most of the bottom end there. Mid and bottom. Because I want it in the background. But yeah, after running it through those various plugins, it gives it the texture I'm looking for. What else we got? Oh, what's this bubble wash? This is something that happens earlier. Bubble wash. Bubble wash. Oh, what's that? Lots of delay. So if you ever wonder what a bubble wash sounds like, now you know. Sounds kind of cool. And okay, so I've got these Juno 60 strings. Sounds like, oh, interesting. I'm not running anything. Am I using any effects at all? It sounds so hollow. Oh, wait, I've got a filter going on. Okay, so I'm chopping off the bottom end here. Now this is way louder than they would appear in the final mix. I just wanted something really far off in the background just to create a bit of sizzle, because I think it was probably sounding kind of flat, muffled without them. Oh, wait. So, I mean, you know, sounds okay, but that's the reason why I created this, because I felt with this on, I mean, and again, it's too loud where it is right now. I would have definitely turned it down, but I hope you understand why I did it, in that it's just to fill in that top end and give it more presence than what's actually there. I think that's it. Oh no, I've got these strings. Are these strings? Or are they cello maybe? Oh, it's a flute. So I've hard panned this just far to the right. Oh, it's just being used elsewhere? Oh, okay. So yeah, this reverb's being used in for a bunch of different patches. 3. This one, the flute, and the rumble. Apparently are all using it. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the bulk of the song. If I remember correctly, the way this song ends, you know, I bring in a simpler version of the church organ. And from this point to this point is basically just a really slow fade out, because I would be cross-fading the next track into this part. So yeah, let's go into that part right now. And here we are with Memory Thief. So we start with some breath here. And this plays technically in the last track. I just got these various breath sounds that happen. And then we come into this reverse piano. Let's see what it sounds like. This looks like it was played live. Yeah. Yeah, I would have played this live. So we'll just go in and see what it actually sounds like. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a reverse piano. Very, very hard release. It just stops. So yeah, I'm going completely wet, and you're not hearing any of the original source at all. Cut the decay set to 100 seconds ridiculously. And this takes out that nasally sound. Makes it easier on the ears. Yeah, wow. That reverb just keeps going forever. So obviously when that happens, you need to be really careful and have a lot of space in between your notes. I would have definitely EQ'd this more just listening to this now. That can get annoying real fast the way it is right now. So next part is our bass. I'm just going to play it right in here instead. What bass is this? Oh, okay, so I used Altus for this. Really liked how this turned out. It's got a weight to it at the very, very start. You can hear more probably here. Get that woomph. I always love that. And again, perfect example. This is another perfect example where you definitely want to make sure that you're narrowing the soundstage in the bottom end. Yeah, that bass is really powerful when it wants to be. Very cool. Let's see what else we got going on. So we got this little thingy going on and some automation, channel painting. Where are these notes? Where are they? Oh, they're all the way up here. So burning piano sound effects air knock. Yeah, so I mean this is purely going to be purely wet. Can't hear the original at all. Let's see what that actually sounds like. And again, I'm just panning from left to right here. Funky sounds. By the way, that's still Omnisphere, because Omnisphere is the sound sources that this program has, or this plugin has, is out of control. You have so many sounds. Covers so many genres. And then, once the song is decided to finally get started at, 7 minutes in, huh? Although, keep in mind that technically it starts probably more around here when I'm actually, if you were to listen to the actual song. But still, good 6 minutes in at least. So I've got these. Nope, where the heck is it? There it is. East-West. Voices of Passion, and I've used these in tons and tons of songs. If you ever hear voices or voices in my music or singing, it's going to be Voices of Passion from East-West. Lots of control, lots of cool stuff you can do with it. It's not perfect though, and I find you have to you need to hide it because So the way this works is it's going to be in one key, essentially. And I'll just play it just flat just to give you an idea. Because it looks like I'm playing different notes here, but what I'm playing here are different recordings. So I'll show you. Oh, maybe. Okay, I apologize. But again, out of the box, it sounds pretty bad. And you really need to hide. You'd be able to do programming stuff probably. So yeah, to use this stuff, you really need to hide it. So yeah, no, the stuff I was talking about was they do have different sections within here that allow you to basically play in a particular key. And all the different notes play short little snippets of a performance, basically, and you can sort of mix and match them. But obviously that's not the case here. So to start, I have panning left to right, fairly slow. Another dip here, and then we'll run into the reverb. And yes, so as you can see, again, I have it completely wet to hide the fact that that really sounds fake. So now that really it just sounds like, I mean, that sounds clearly fake. This actually sounds like it could be for real. Now, interestingly, I have more reverb because clearly I wanted it more smeared. So, yeah, you're taking a sound source and really just hiding it in reverb, but you still get the essence that, yes, this is actually a person singing, and lets you sing whatever melody you want. With complete control, rather than using pre-recorded sort of sections where someone might be actually singing that. So yeah, having that control is nice, but you really need to hide it. And at the end here, I've got these various breaths again for that we play in the beginning, because this goes into the third track. Again, got a lot of long crossfades going in for this album. Actually, I think for the entire album, now that I think about it, I think it plays through all without any break. Something I really enjoy when you're listening to an album, and it's just it flows from one track to another, just as seamless. But the change in what happens when you go into the next track, there's obvious like change in how it sounds, but just the nice gradual shift. I really like that, and that's something that I do. I haven't done it a lot recently, but definitely a lot I've done in the past. What you leave behind. So the bass of this track is once again it's a bunch of beautiful guitar loops. I'll give you an idea what they actually sound like on their own. It's actually running through some reverb, and it should be. Yeah. Running twice. Admittedly, when I opened this project, there was something not quite right. And again, obviously, I was using an older version of this software when I wrote this versus now. And while I generally don't have any problems, I was using sends to send to this reverb up here, because basically all 5 of these had I set slightly different EQs before sending it to the reverb. So there was an example where I actually did what I was talking about earlier, where I sent everything to one reverb rather than having 5 instances of a reverb. But yeah, it's something's going on with the send. I don't quite know what, but it's a little confused. I think it's the way it did sends back then versus now has changed, and so I had to do a bit of weird stuff to get it to work. And I think whatever, it is what it is. Anyway, all that to say that, yeah, so there's 5 different loops here. They're all sort of variations. So, yeah, so the first one here, I've got a very drastic, like this line goes beyond what you can see. I just really wanted that sparkle. This one isn't as bad. Turn that off for now, just so you can hear the loops. And again, they're all very similar in how they sound. Obviously, I'm playing a different... That reverb's out of control. And again, got another crazy EQ curve going on these. So yeah, anyway, basically just have these various loops doing different things throughout the song. I think there's a cello. It sounds more like a double bass. Yeah, no, it's got to be a bass, can't be a cello. So that's just providing some bottom end, and again the cello has some nice raspy qualities to it, which is nice. And you know, regular reverb is only 7 seconds instead of 100, so that's nice. That's important, obviously, because I do change keys. And then last, which is the melodic elements of the song. And this looks like it was played live. Yeah. And to be clear, when I say it's played live, but with massive fixes afterwards, because, you know, the amount of times I'm going to hit the wrong key is quite often. So, yeah. So I've got this little plugin called Transient Master, which helps remove the attack. Well, I can do a lot of stuff, but I use it to just soften the attack a little bit. Got EQ taking out the bottom end, essentially. Delay. Not, as you can see, it's not, none of this is quantized. So it makes the delay sound kind of funky sometimes. But that's what I wanted. And then we'll add the reverb. Mostly wet. We're hearing a bit of it. Decay time is not out of control again. It's there. And then just remove that. Listen to this now. I probably did more EQing again because I'm not quite happy how this sounds, but that's usually the way I work. I usually do the broad strokes in here and then the really fine-tuned tweaking when I do the mix and master. So yeah, I mean, cello, filling in the bottom end. And again, since I have such a long reverb tail on these guitar loops here, you can have these spaces. So it creates more like swells up and down. You're not really hearing it fade out completely or anything like that. It sort of just comes and goes. Because if you were to play it continuously, it would just be too much. So you really want that up and down swell. And that's something I know people have commented on my music before. My music really swells. It comes and goes. And I do that to ease any possibility of like ear fatigue, especially for some of these longer tracks where, you know, this is going on. I mean, how long is this track? It's probably at least 10 minutes or something like that. 14 minutes. So when you're playing a sound for that long, you really need to make sure that you give the ears a break. Otherwise, yeah, you just get ear fatigue. It starts sounding harsh. Your ears can grow sensitive. It's just not fun. So that's something that I do a lot in my music, is the up and down swell to give your ears a break. Yeah. So let's move on to the last track, which is A Beast. The last track, Walk with Oblivion, which is, I think, at least 30 minutes long. Yeah, pretty much 30 minutes long. And as you can see, uses a fair number of sound sources, patches. So over the course of 30 minutes, there's a slow progression between where it started and where it ended. So I guess we'll start at the top. Something called cryptic sound. Okay, so yeah, it's just fun sounds. What it sounds like on its own. Huh, interesting. Again, it's one of these situations where the attack is just like bunk. It's hilarious. So let's see what happens when we put it to a delay. Huh. Yeah. And run it to the reverb. You really don't hear the fact that it's doing these hard on off with the sound. Yeah, it's interesting. I would have never done that now. It's curious. And so the next thing we got is Space Cry, which I'm going to assume. Oh, yeah, it's just that sound. Yeah, okay, sorry, I was playing two sounds, I realize now. Because they're both on the same channel. And this automation here is just left and right. So it's just going back and forth between left and right for each little. And then after a minute of that, because again I would have been doing some cross-fading between this and the last track, we get into some actual melodic elements. Baritone guitar. Doesn't sound baritone at all. Yep, it is what it is. Very, very pure tone. The next one is called Monastery, and I don't know. Yeah, so I'm just playing octaves. Again, just a cool sound source. Run through reverb. Because I think it just loops. Yeah, there's no change. Yeah, it's just, it goes for a while and just keeps repeating the same thing for a while. Chamberlain strings. What's this? Yeah. I should mention that all of these are all from Omnisphere. Like, this entire track is from Omnisphere. So, yeah. Again, just interspersed, sort of going in between with the other things. Everything gets a little, like if I play these three elements before, or together. You got the, so it starts with this doing its little wah wah thing. These few, and interestingly, this and this sound very similar, but they aren't the same thing. The Chamberlain strings is more like a more aggressive version of this Monastery one. And then we bring in this, morphing piano strings. Yeah, I mean, you can hear the... Pretty cool one, eh? I know I've used that one in a lot of songs, this patch. I really like that patch. And then, after a bit of fiddling with that, we got another one called Nature Boy Pad. Let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so just a simple pad. So again, I'm sort of filling in more holes with more stuff. And this is another thing that I've going to make this bigger here so we can see more. I keep introducing, so it starts with these. This one comes in next, then we get this string here. This simple pad that it's playing now. And then coming up we have something called Orange Prophet, high and then low. So you just get more and more and more elements coming over time. It sort of creates a progression. Let's see what this sounds like. Okay. And you can see this play, that sort of pad. And again, once again, going in and out, in and out. Because to have that playing continuously would just be annoying. So you let it breathe. But this brings you into the second part where we start introducing a new set. And what we were playing here goes away. And so we've got the low version of this pad. And you see how they play out of sequence? In, out, and in and again. Again, that's something I do often enough. That's probably just going to be an octave down. Yeah. Another thing I'll very likely do, and again you don't see it here, is when I'm doing the mix, I'll be fading this in over time and fading it out over time, so that it's once it's stopped playing, it isn't overly obvious to the listener. It just sort of gradually faded out, and you sort of almost forget about it. So now we're going to be introducing some boys choir. Very soon here. Off to the right hand side. Probably have that hard panned. Yep. I have it almost basically completely hard pan to the right. So if we hear what that sounds like. Yeah, it's just reverb. It's interesting, I'm not EQing on nearly anything. Although it really doesn't need it for the most part, so I was curious, because usually I need to EQ things like crazy to make it sound the way I want. So let's see what this sounds like. Yeah, it sounds fine. But yeah, the reverb, completely wet. This particular reverb is a stereo reverb, which means it will take the sound source, in this case it's panned hard right, and you can still make out some of the detail all the way in the far right side, even though for the most part the reverb has smeared it across the entire soundstage. So that's one reason, and I think I've mentioned this. Now that I think about it, I've probably already talked about this. Anyway, there's reasons why you want to have multiple reverbs, because they can do different things, and this one in particular is a stereo reverb, which is what interests me, which I think was the original reason I bought it. Yeah, that sounds really cool. Now we're coming up to a point, I think it might be coming up right here. So for whatever the last 8 minutes, you've been basically in this one key. So now for the first time I've introduced it, and instead of playing oops, I was playing, it was an F sharp I was playing. Yeah. So the entire time I've been playing F sharp, and now I'm drop it down to D. So that's, again, something I did the exact same thing in the first track of part one, where I'm playing in one key for an extended period of time and sort of lull you into this is what it's going to do, and then you create that, I don't know what you would call it, but anyway, it's a good feeling when you get that sudden change and shift after so long. But it's short-lived because I believe it goes back to the original. Yeah, goes back to the key. But again, I now shift back and forth on a regular basis. And now we have a new introduction of something new called Chamber Resonance Ensemble. Let's see what it sounds like on its own. Clearly there was these two frequency ranges where it was bugging me. Now you won't hear it with the reverb. It's actually pretty subtle. But it's one of those things where running it through reverb will sort of continuously add these particular frequencies. So, well, I mean, you hear it there. Maybe I'll run it through. See, I wouldn't really call this a melody, but just adds a little more animation into what has generally been these larger loops from a whole bunch of different sounds. And that goes on for a while, because I don't think I introduced anything above or below. So now I add these Iceland, which is probably loops. Yeah. And I'm probably playing octaves. No, I'm not. Five. Doesn't sound like it should work, but once you run it through reverb and with everything else, it actually works. It's very much so we continue on. After a while, the boys' choir stops. And soon after, we have this melody that isn't a melody that goes next. And I introduce a low version, which is probably just an octave down. We listen to it. They play together a few times, and then the low takes over. And we keep going, and then these pads that have been playing for quite some time, since 5 minutes to 21 minutes, they finally stop. And again, I would do a slow fade out for both of these so that it's less obvious that they're stopping. And basically taking their place are these, the ones I was just playing here, are basically taking its place. Because if we play these together, again, they sort of sound like one thing now. It's interplay here. And as we move into the sort of the last part of this song, the last 10 minutes or so. Well, what is this? Let's see what it sounds like. Oops, we got this still going. But it works. There's really not much to say. It just is what it is. By this point, what I'm aiming for is basically just to put you to sleep. If you aren't already. I'm really softening everything. Yeah, so I've got the low. Now I'm playing a low version of this, just like I did with the high and low of the last one. Just being as delicate as I can. And this part, that's this sort of razzy sort of this thing with the bass. Again, I would do a really slow fade out over minutes. 3 or 4 minute fade out. So again, it's just, you don't even notice it at the end. So I'm actually going to mute it, because by this point over here, you're going to hear it, but it's going to be so low that it's just really in the background. And yeah, so and again, obviously that would be much quieter. And just a slow fade out to the end. So, yeah, there's a lot here. I realize that. But the majority of the sound sources here are these sort of sound sources that, in a way, I wish I could create something like this from scratch. Sound design is not like, this is what it sounds like without any effects or anything, just out of the box. It's again But since I'm running it through delays and reverb and that subtleness, or that not subtleness, that hard attack and hard release. You don't even know it's there. Yeah, but believe me, if I could create sound sources that sound like that and use them myself, I would. But yeah, sound design it's definitely not my forte. I can more just do something cool with existing ones and make it sound good, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, that last track is a bit of a doozy, and yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, I hope you learned something from this. Leave me questions in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them. Send me an email if you're looking for something more in depth than what just a YouTube comment can leave. I'm more than happy to go into more in depth if you have specific questions about something. And if there's another album you'd like me to delve into, again, let me know in the comments. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day. Take care.